Alright, welcome to my flip through of all of my illustrations from the book of Genesis. Got my good old journaling Bible, starting to show some wear and tear from years of reading and drawing in here, but it's still good. Hopefully it'll be able to withstand another few decades of drawing in here. We shall see. But even if I did start noticing that as I have been going through that the book that I've focused on has become quite a lot looser in its binding than the rest of the Bible. So I guess we'll see. But anyway, here it is, starting from the beginning. In page 1. I thought I would just flip through and show you guys what these 44 pages of illustrations look like, kind of more in the real context that they're in, not digitally but traditionally as much as possible, and just sort of point out some of my favorite ones to you guys, ones that maybe I might want to redo on some watercolor paper. So here's page 2 with Adam and Eve and Cain and Abel, and we go to the mark of Cain and the story of Noah. That one was pretty dramatic, like that one. Going on to Noah's, the stuff that happened after the flood. I wanted to show you guys, I have a hidden picture in one of the illustrations here. I put a hidden archer pointing the rainbow up to heaven because, as you probably know, the rainbow is a symbol of God's promise not to destroy the world with a flood. But in the next time he put judgment on the world, he pointed it at his own son. So the bow and arrow pointing up towards heaven is a symbol of God's choice to put judgment on, take the judgment upon himself and offer us forgiveness through that. So that's what the rainbow is a symbol of. Don't know if you guys knew that or not. So as we go through, some of the illustrations I like more than others. It's definitely has been kind of almost like just a flow of progress and not so much a planned out illustration process like for a book. But that's kind of what this is about. It's a journaling Bible. It's not a professional illustration thing. So at this point, I think my style is kind of my least favorite style as I was going through, and definitely needed to do some kind of problem solving and stuff. I found that my illustrations looked too sketchy and messy, and wasn't a super fan of that. I wanted them to be a little clearer. So here is probably like the first example of an illustration that I really liked. I loved how Jacob's ladder turned out, and I also loved how the character design for Leah and Rebecca turned out. Leah apparently means something like weak eyes, so I just made one of her eyes pointing in a different direction. And yeah, so my general flow has been to read through the page, try to find the kind of main plot points, and then put those into the margin, and in order to evoke curiosity about what is actually on the page. So some pages got more action than others, like this one on the right here. This is the first page that had like a massacre, so that one was pretty action-packed. But a lot of them is just genealogies, and it's kind of interesting to know how to portray that. There is a lot to be portrayed when you look into those. They're not as boring as you might think, but they take a little bit more artistic thought, I suppose. Here's another page I really like because the characters are so well defined. I really enjoyed drawing Potiphar's wife because she's so lecherous and creepy and dramatic. So she was the kind of character that allowed for some pretty fun poses to draw. At this point in the process, or in my illustrating through Genesis, I started using gouache to kind of fix some of the messiness and make it a little tidier, and I think that really made a difference. with the end results. It really helped kind of define the shapes and make them a little brighter. And this is also where I started using gutters in between the different scenes, which I think, like earlier, I just sort of would put a little sketchy line instead of a well-defined gutter. And I think both work. I guess the real goal is to make it purposeful. Yeah. And here we are kind of in our more contemporary drawings. These ones were recently posted on Instagram, and I'm pretty happy with how they turned out. And it was definitely a lot of fun ending with such a big illustration at the bottom there. So yeah, so that's the whole book of Genesis. To me, it seems a lot smaller of a book now that I've illustrated all the way through it. The next book is Exodus, and it's roughly the same length. Just noticed it's got 40 chapters. Genesis had 50, but there's about the same amount of pages in that book. So I'll be sketching through that and putting the sketches into my stories a little. But I was thinking I wanted to take some of the best or my favorite illustrations from Genesis and redo them on some nicer paper and maybe put them in my art store on my website. So I invite you, watcher of this video, to flip through and see which illustrations you think are very cool. Might make a good bookmark or something, because they're very bookmark shaped anyway. And let me know what you think could be redone. I would probably try to improve it a little. And if it's on watercolor paper, it'll look nicer anyway, because that's paper that's meant to hold color and that kind of stuff. But I just thought it would be kind of a neat way to look back on Genesis and celebrate some of the highlights, the artistic highlights of the illustration process. So yeah, please go through, and if you find something that you think would look great on paper, then you just tell me about that. And even if it so most of them are kind of in that format anyway, but also if you saw something and you're like, man, I would just like to see Potiphar's dreams made into one long bookmark shaped thing, that would be cool too. So yes, thank you so much for going through this whole journey with me. I look forward to continuing on in Exodus, and I thank you so much for following through Genesis with me. So let us continue on. Bye.